Hi and welcome to Yum Paleo. My name is Andrew and today we're going to be doing a really yummy paleo seafood chowder. So the whole idea behind a seafood chowder, it's kind of a weird one. People are divided on that depending on how much they like seafood. So what I'm doing here is I'm just choosing some of my favourite seafoods and putting that in. Anyway, to get us started, what I've got here is two onions, two brown onions which I've just peeled, and I'm just going to chop those up and get them into my pan here. So once I've done that, I'm going to put in bacon and other bits and pieces, but let's get on to the seafood and just show you what I've got. I have half a pound of scallops, around half a pound of shrimps, and they're the ones with their chewy bits pulled off, so their tails and things pulled off, because we don't want to be hooking that stuff out of the chowder. I've got about half a pound of bacon here as well. I have half a pound of fresh salmon, and this is just a fillet that I have deboned and just taken the skin off. And I also have half a pound of white fish, and the white fish that I'm using today is monkfish, but you can feel free to use any kind of fish. I experimented a couple of weeks back when I was making one at home, and I did it using hoki, but you can pretty much use anything. And in addition to these ones, you can add things that you really love, such as mussels and clams and all of that kind of thing. But I'm using 4 different types of seafood here to add into this, so it's going to make it really yummy. Anyway, let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this ring on, or this element, and just ease that temperature back a wee bit because I don't want it to cook too fast. So while that's heating up, I'm just going to chop these onions. Now I'm chopping these on a separate board over here just because I've got my fish already laid out on the other one, so I just don't want to get things all mixed up. So before I finish chopping those, what I've got here is some coconut oil, and I'm going to grab a fairly generous tablespoon of coconut oil, and I'm just going to ease that off there and drop it into the pan, and that's just going to swizzle around in there. It's a very technical term, swizzling, while I finish off this other onion. Now, depending on your quantities that you're serving, this can either be served as a main, or you cut your quantities back a little bit. It's just a really delicious starter as well. I've used it as both, and to be honest, yeah, I quite like it as a starter, but as a lunch, this is fantastic, especially on a cold day. And of course, the really cool thing about all this yummy fish is it's very high in protein, and it's also full of omega-3, which is obviously what you know as brain food, so really, really good for your brain. Anyway, that coconut oil is rather warm, so I'm just going to take that off for a second. Coconut oil has a really low smoke point, so it smokes really quickly, quite unlike olive oil or any other types of oils or fats that you'll use. So with that off the heat, I'm just going to pop this in, and I'm just going to use my spatula so pop that back onto there now. Now the idea with the onion is, so you want to cook it until it's reasonably translucent. So you're just going to have to keep an eye on that while you're cooking it. While I'm doing that, I've just got some garlic that I want to add in. So I'm going to add 3 cloves of garlic. So get that biggest piece of garlic and just going to squeeze that in there. And then we're just going to take what's left of those little bits of crushed garlic and we're just going to chop that finely. So I don't like wasting anything. And we're going to throw that in as well. Give that another quick stir. Now the idea is that you want to soften that onion and garlic without burning it, and you don't want it to go brown because that will affect its flavour. So I'm just going to move that fish to one side and I'm just going to chop up this bacon. Okay, so with this bacon we're just going to cut it finely. And the idea there is you leave the fat on it too because you want the fat in it. It's just going to really help that flavour. So the really cool thing about laying all those rashers together is that they chop really easily, all in a row. So that's our bacon ready, so I'm going to put that, and what we're going to do now is we're going to add just the bacon in. Don't want to put the fish in yet, but we do want to put the bacon in. So there goes our ½ pound of bacon, and we're just going to want to fry that off. And while we're doing that, I'm going to grab my leek. Just going to trim the end off that, like so. Just take the top off it out there. So I don't really want the green bit. Just give that a rinse, make sure there's no dirt stuck in that layer. And we're just going to finely slice that leek. Come back to that leek in a moment, give that another stir. Right, so just come back to this leek now and just keep chopping it. So, now the idea is that we want to just cook that bacon off, because obviously as you're cooking it you're bringing some of that flavour out of the bacon, and I'm just going to add a little bit of ground black pepper into the mix. Just going to make it really yummy. Great, so I'm generally quite happy with how that's cooked down now. So what we're going to do now is add in a pint, which is 600 mils. For those of you who don't know, it's a pint of chicken stock, and we're just going to just ease that through, and then from there what we're going to do is put in our chopped leeks. Okay, so we've got that leek in there, and what we're doing next is we're going to add some sweet potato. So I've got 3 little baby ones here, and what I'm going to do is just chop them into small pieces, dice them. Now if you were using one big one that would probably be okay, but I only had little ones today, so I'm using 3 little ones, which is just a fairly approximate quantity. Now, if you didn't want to use sweet potato, you could substitute it quite easily with a little bit of pumpkin. Be quite happy to do it with pumpkin. Cool, so now we've got those little bits of sweet potato. They're going in as well. So we're just going to want to stir that in, just to get those pieces of sweet potato under the water. And we're just going to cook that off for sort of around a good 20 minutes on a medium heat. So just pop that lid on, let that cook down 20 or so minutes just to get that kumara or that sweet potato nice and soft. And after that point, we're going to start adding our seafood and really helping it come together. So we'll see you back here in about 20 minutes where we start making some magic happen. Okay, so we're back. It's been about 20 to 30 minutes. Just checked on that. The sweet potato has come and cooked down really nicely. So what I want to do next is I'm going to start putting in some of the seafood and the pint of coconut cream. Now what I've done actually, I had a can of coconut cream here that was 400 mils, and then 200 mils of that is coconut milk, but let's not be too fussy. So anyway, we're putting in a pint there. And then I'm going to add, just going to drain a little bit of the juice out of those scallops. So I'm going to add in half a pound of scallops, half a pound of shrimps, my half a pound of salmon, and a half a pound of monkfish. So just a really delicious white fish. And I've just chopped those into chunks. So that's all gone in. And what I'm also adding here is 2 teaspoons of basil pesto, which is just done with a little bit of, if you have a look through one of our, through our recipe index, you'll see the recipe for basil pesto. So that's just a little bit of garlic, basil, some walnuts and olive oil. So we're going to add in those 2 teaspoons, and that's just going to help influence the flavour ever so slightly. And then we're just going to give that a stir through. So we're just going to reduce that heat down a little bit, pop that lid back on, and we're going to cook that for around 5 to 10 minutes. While we're doing that, before we serve, we're going to add a little bit of lemon juice. That's going to happen just as we take it off the heat. I'm actually going to put a little bit more pepper in there, just because that's something I really like. So don't be frightened of it. There we go. And what we're going to do while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to grab a handful of that parsley, like so, break it off, roll it into a bit of a ball, and we're just going to finely cut that, and we're just going to add that onto the top of each serving as a little bit of a garnish. And it also just adds that little bit of a burst of fresh greenness and flavour on top of it as well, which is just delicious. So there we go. So see you back here in about 5 to 10 minutes. We were just getting the heat through that and just cooking that seafood. Obviously seafood takes such a short amount of time to cook. So I'll see you back here in about 5 to 10 minutes where we're going to be ready to plate up. So I'll see you then. Okay, so we're back. It's been 5 to 10 minutes and here we go. This is cooked beautifully. So I'm really liking the look of that. Just going to give that one more bit of a stir. Just help show me what's in there, and it looks great. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to stick that sieve over the top, because when we juice these lemons, I just don't want to drop pips into it, which you'll sometimes get. So just going to juice 1 lemon, so 2 halves, and that's just going to help release that really yummy citrus into it. They're lovely juicy lemons actually, like so. Get that out of it, stir that through. Wow, smells fantastic. So just going to grab my ladle. And then I'm just going to put a little pinch of parsley into the middle there, like so. And there we have it, my yummy paleo seafood chowder. So really hope you enjoy that. I know I'm going to in a moment. So I'll see you back here again for another delicious paleo recipe. See you next time.